Hey guys, best way to support the show are the links in the description as well as in the pinned comment for Cash App, PayPal, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and Locals. The big three revenue streams are YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify. They have in the past fluctuated wildly, and obviously with YouTube, they've outright banned me. If you like the podcast and you want it to keep going, I'd ask that you please look at any of those. You can donate as little as $1 a month. Thousands of you guys watch the show. The show needs about $5,000 a month to run. If you think that giving $2 a month doesn't make a difference, you are wrong. It makes a huge difference. I track every penny, and it really does mean something, not just in a cutesy way. It actually helps the show. I would much rather the show be funded by thousands of y'all than a couple big show or big platforms that could cut me off at any time. So if you would please consider that, if you enjoy the show, please donate to one of those. Thank you so much. We are recording on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 at 11:03 a.m. Eastern Time with the bald ones. And Dave, could you explain exactly what you were just telling us as to why you're not in your normal office? Is something got flooded and fucked and there's a fire under the hood and I feel like it's your fault, but it probably isn't.
They can blame me. Yeah, there was a fire in the hood, flooded fifth floor down to the basement. Estimated costs of the sprinkler system going off is about $5 million. So I am in temporary space that's, as you can see, not staged even as well as I normally stage, which is about as impressive as Tom's staging, and no pictures of Harvard degrees behind me or anything. So or Columbia degrees or whatever. So there's that, and then we had. Between dog appointments and doctor's appointments, we probably had 7 or 8 appointments this week.
Yeah.
Is it?
And you have to run your own health care. So here's one for you. So our GP, my wife has circulation problem in one leg, and she gets her cholesterol checked and gets scanned and stuff, and she's working at like 50%. But her GP says her cholesterol's too high; it's 130. And I'm sitting there going,
Gonna die. It's like ridiculously low.
I know. I'm at 162
God,
a couple of years ago. My doc said, "Go have a plate of eggs," right? And he did say that. And she says, "No, it should be under 100." She was going to put her on SSRIs. Now we had a vein doc that the next day, so he said, "Let's just kind of wait." And we talked to the vein guy, and he said, "What? Really? No." And he said, "There's nothing to be done here." He says, "You got circulation issues, but there's no risk factors here. Just I'll see you in 6 months." But she's going to put her on SSRIs for the rest of her life because of a complete misinterpretation of her cholesterol test.
How about
there's medicine for you these days?
I'm really disappointed with it. And you have to be your own healthcare provider.
Absolutely. You got to be your own doctor now.
You go, they send you to some website and you have to interpret your own lab results. And, they did some scan and there was no pictures or anything. She just read a report to my wife, and I'm going, what the fuck is this shit? I want to see a fucking picture.
Well, this just confirms the basic framework that these people just want to kill the old people. They don't pay for them anymore. I mean, I just keep seeing data point after data point. There's one. I'm not gonna. I shouldn't do this because that would be really rude. Was the doctor Indian?
We've never been rude on this podcast.
Yeah, Tom, what the fuck? That was your guardrail.
Where did that standard show up?
That was 2 shows ago. Was called "Make Babies Don't Eat Them." It was a show dedicated to satanic cannibals, cannibal pedophiles.
I was being.
The doctor was probably fucking Indian. I mean, what
yeah, it was the doctor fucking Indian.
Right, this is the nicest thing you've ever said.
Indian. The doctor was Indian.
Oh my God!
Hey, it's not. That's just pattern recognition. That's not racist.
One time I was driving behind a car with my son, who's about 15, so he's into arguing, and the driver just sucks. We can't see who it is. I go that I said there's an Asian chick driving that car in front of us. And my son said, "Dad, that's racist." I go, "Well, just watch. I'll show you. I'll pass her." And he passed her. There's this Asian lady driving the car.
You know himself.
Well, was she doing something peculiar behind the wheel or what?
Yeah, doing half the speed limit.
Yeah,
it's the usual
shit.
It's the old George Carlin joke about the about driving and having the Flying Dutchman, like the 4'4" woman behind the wheel. You can't see her head because the
That's
headrest is
right.
taller. And so you can stay behind the Flying Dutchman. I'm not fucking with a ghost car. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I always, the only time I ever feel some sort of way about getting angry at a car is if I see the person's really old. That's the only time I'm like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I
it's
do.
okay.
I do.
Everyone else, I want them to die in front of me.
So
But
when I'm listening to audiobooks, I occasionally record on my phone, interrupted wise. I interrupt the audiobook and I record a thought that came across the audiobook instead of taking notes. I was listening to one the other day and I'm reading and then all of a sudden I go, hey, fuckface, how about a fucking blinker? That's the classic. I hate
No,
people who don't use blinkers. I cannot stand that.
See, we use them in Florida, like especially in the South, especially like it's Florida, especially Georgia's similar. But the blinkers are not us asking for permission. Those are a warning.
I know.
We're changing
Also,
lanes.
you have to decide to turn them off.
Yes.
Now, do you know why the blinkers are always on? Because we're too deaf to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the old guys have blinkers on all the time, because they can't hear the audible of the blinker.
Right. The tick of the blinker. It is really funny. And I agree with Tommy. Like I yell at traffic all the time, especially now that whenever I'm driving by myself. I'm not allowed to yell at traffic the way I used to with my wife in the car. She's like, look, it really makes me,
Well, I don't get mad though. That's key.
Right. Yeah.
Mine is more of a just, event rave, I'm not actually mad.
Yeah.
Come on, Dave. It's performative, isn't it?
It is performative. It absolutely is performative.
When I'm dealing with
Self-performative.
when I'm dealing with liberals in Gainesville, Florida, which is a high concentration of them, I can tell you,
university town.
It's insane.
Oh,
And
right.
you can always tell with the Subaru driver in the left-hand lane of a 4-lane divided highway, 2 and 2, doing the speed limit right next to somebody else because they're saying, everybody's going to they want to control traffic. Like it's their control freak nature is so complete that they literally like block the road up so that nobody can speed. Okay, and there's always a Subaru or a RAV4.
I drive a Subaru.
Up north it makes sense, but down south where we are, there's absolutely no reason to drive a Subaru.
Half the life expectancy of a Toyota. I mean, they're just not as good a car.
Right. No,
they call them Lesbarus up here.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I thought we were elevating our game here today, but
no, we're not. No, we're not elevating at all. No, and they do it on purpose. You can just watch them do it, and then eventually, when the guy in the right hand lane just finally either slows down and you slip behind you, you look over and it's some 45 to 50-year-old, woman being a dick, being horrible, and then she looks at you and you're speeding. I'm like fuck you. I'm trying to get to where I want to go, and I can't stand it. Nothing makes my blood boil more than having, when I go down south to drive in Gainesville. Nothing makes my blood boil more. Everything else is fine. I can deal with the ridiculous truck traffic on I-75 and guys trying to do 71 in the left-hand lane, trying to pass the other truck doing 70 when the de facto speed limit on the I-75 is 90. But
hey, if you really want your blood to boil, try watching some Norm Eisen podcasts.
I don't.
With Jennifer Rubin. Smiling, Jim, laughing Norm.
I was going to say, Jim, I thought we were friends.
Well, I'm not compelling you to do it.
Okay, fine.
In terms
Just
of like
suggesting it.
I don't need it. I don't need anything more to infuriate me in this life, my friend. Like I'm good. I've got plenty. My cup runneth over.
By the way, Tom, you've been brawling on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. You've really been brawling. Mm-hmm. Did you see the series? I'm not even sure you were linked into it, where they were making AIs of you. Did you see that one?
No, but I've been seeing. I've been dealing with this for close to a year now. last summer, I had a whole bunch of groypers in my community, like trying to destroy my Slack server. And I was just up in Calgary at the Cornerstone Forum with Sean Newman and Alex Craner and Bird else. And I was asking Alex, I'm like, Alex, do you ever like look at the comments under the YouTubes that we do together? Because you can see it's like it's really clear, like Alex is the good guy and I'm the bad guy. And I was telling him about what they were doing, and they were making all these ridiculous memes of me. One of which is me wearing a yarmulke.
I saw that one.
That one's been going around for a while.
The lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, kissing the wailing wall with the Newsmax sign there.
I saw it with a cigar.
Yeah, with the cigar.
I saw that.
And then the best one though, and this is the one that Dexter White likes the most. He's like, it was the picture of, it was like the classic Chairman Mao picture, but with me with the cigar and the yarmulke. And he's like, oh my God, that's what he has on his iPhone. So when I call, I'm Chairman Tom. It's hilarious. He's like, dude, you just have to laugh. You just have to lean in and laugh.
I just saw this morning you ripped into Tom Woods.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, you deserve it.
I've been having the same trouble, not at your level though. You're working on a whole nother plane.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if it's because I'm going over my skis more than normal, or if I'm being attacked more than normal. I can't. I did a three-way with someone, and I do have an ability to interrupt, but he was one of these stream of consciousness guys who just, if you don't interrupt, 2 hours later, you have said nothing. And I actually checked, and I spoke about 20% of the time. The comment section reamed me out for interrupting.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, the guy wouldn't have stopped. And he's a real smart guy, and I really appreciate all the things he had to say. And my questions were always like, well, could you clarify this? Or it was all trying to sort of get nuance out of him. Right. And I'm getting ripped. And it reminds me of the Ferris interviews. Mike Ferris does interviews, and no one lays off their interviewees than Ferris, right? Ferris interjects so little. And people will still say in the comments, I wish Mike would quit, interrupting and let the speaker speak. And I'm going, Ferris? Yeah, of all the fucking people?
Right.
Those are just miserable people. You really has nothing to do
bots.
with it. Has nothing.
Yeah, 90% of that is bots. I hate to cut you off, Tommy, but
No, I don't care, dude. They're bots or they're miserable. It has nothing to do with the show they're watching.
Well, they come in waves too, so they come in like 5 in a row.
They're miserable bots.
They're miserable bots.
It has nothing.
They're grumpy bots.
Yeah, no, it has
grumpy bots.
I was gonna say, is there an analogy between like when someone's driving like a fucking retard and you pull up and it is a woman and you're like, women shouldn't drive? Is there an analogy to that with like the Supreme Court yesterday? You're like, what the fuck is this ruling? You pull up and it's, well, the application of the law would be messy. It kind of goes in the same
black
vein.
Chick was her Ketanji Jackson.
It was who's the one that Trump appointed?
Barrett.
Didn't she say the application of this would be messy and therefore no?
Well, I'm sorry, that's not your job. Implementation is the president's job.
I think they smuggled
Congress.
Something by Trump on that one. That one looked like a great appointment, and I think she duped him. I think they spoofed the court on that one.
Yeah. FYI, she's not Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's Shamiqua Autopen.
She's terrible. I mean, she's really a dildo. She's a dingleberry.
She really is. Sorry. I know. Sorry, Jim. I got to get that one out there. So, yeah, that's just true. I mean, she's just terrible. I mean, even Sotomayor is at least, she has a perspective and she's at least, reasonably intelligent.
Sotomayor is on the bell curve. Ketanji Jackson's way off. They said that she speaks something like 5 times as much as the entire conservative wing of the court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So what? Do they have some kind of colloquy off camera or off the bench? Do they actually debate these issues in a room or?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I have no idea.
I don't have a good answer to that. I once read listened to a book on the Bill of Rights, but it didn't cover that shit. But I think a lot of it, I don't know if they talk to each other that much. Mm-hmm. I get the feeling they meet at the court.
I'm going to say, I'm thinking that, Shamiqua and Sam Alito don't have lunch together very often. I'm just going
I could imagine there being, camaraderies and lack thereof, but
Right. The big one. The big one is John Roberts. I mean, he's clearly. I think. I'm at the point now where he's in burn it. Whoever his masters are, telling him burn it all to the fucking ground.
Yeah, I
like
think
this
they're
is
at Epstein Island or something.
Yeah, this is very obvious, and so I've been saying for a long time. I know you guys. You get a little bit tired of me saying this, but this clear that they're pushing Trump towards having to make an extra constitutional and extra institutional move to try and save the republic, meaning they're pushing him into being Lincoln, and the judiciary is completely in revolt. The legislature is completely in revolt, and so the idea now is that if Trump wants, they're basically saying, look, if you want to save the republic, you're going to have to become Lincoln. You're going to have to suspend habeas corpus. You're going to have to do all this shit. And Trump is pushing. I think he's pushing all these things forward to the point where he can make the argument to the American people that he does that in order to secure the elections, secure the future, and everything else. And that's what I see. And it's just I think it's a very obvious strategy at this point. And I think it's becoming more and more obvious to a lot of people. Unfortunately, we're like 3 sigmas ahead of the curve on this, and so has it filtered into the general electorate? From Congress's approval rating, probably, but anything more than that in a kind of general sense, I don't think so at this point. So I don't know what's going to happen next. I just know I'm buying guns. That's all.
Yeah, but no one's getting tired of you, Tom. Like, I invite you guys on because I like exactly what this dynamic is. When people are like,
I wrote at least 3 letters today saying that I think that Trump is going to have to go Abe Lincoln.
I hope he does.
On his adversaries, and that we really are entering Civil War II. And, it's either going to be kicked off by summer rioting, or, just as likely he'll have to declare, he'll have to issue an executive order on election reform, which the federal judges are going to immediately strike down. And then he's going to have to find some way to overcome that, and probably the only way to overcome that will be some extraordinary declaration of a national emergency.
Did they pollute that bill with garbage that made it not supportable or something? I've not understood why that bill was
the SAVE Act.
Yeah,
I think the only thing they added on was women's sports.
That should be in there too, for fuck's sake.
Well, yeah, and that's what they did, and they kept it lean apart from that.
Interesting.
And that was it. But, John Thune is just kind of mystifying.
Totally.
What is in it for him, and what is it really? What is in it for, in theory, he's the leader of the Republican Party. What's in it for the Republican Party to continue to have mail-in vote, easily gamed mail-in voting and all the rest of this bullshit?
That totally mystifies me. The only thing I can think, that's why I asked you that question, because the only thing I can think of is it was an impossible bill to vote for. They made it impossible.
That's a good argument, Dave. I think the other argument is that there is no aisle. They don't work for the American people. They clearly work for somebody else. I mean, at some point you have to stop with denying the fact that these people are just fucking vandals that work for somebody else. And at the end of the day, you can pick your poison as to who you think they work for. You know where I stand on this. I think every day that we watch this shit play out on a daily basis, it becomes more and more obvious. And it's, let's just keep ready. Everybody drink, City of London. And we'll go from there. Like, it's not hard. The empire never ended. And speaking of my Twitter feed, where I do, battle every day, I posted a couple of things this morning. It's a really good article that I found that Blaine Holt found from, I can't remember the guy's name. It's phenomenal. It's like, literally, it's like, oh, wow, did Tom write this? Like, pretty much. It's a really good history of the whole empire never ended thing, and you can see our politics from that perspective. And he doesn't get everything that I've been talking about, but he gets the big broad strokes and some of the details. And it's funny. I sent it over to my wife, who doesn't always agree with me about these things. She doesn't understand. And she doesn't want to. She's like, yeah, I trust you, but I don't want to know the details. And she's reading this thing this morning going, and that's the takeaway. And that. I'm like, yeah. And then last night, Trump's speech was, aside from the fact that he was tired.
He really looked tired.
He really looked tired.
I didn't watch it. Should I watch
did.
it? Should I watch it?
I think you should watch it.
Okay.
You know, and watch it for what he's saying, not for the what he's implying, not necessarily how he says it. Because it's Trump. Right. He said what he said last night was that, look, the big thing is that, look, it's supporting that tweet from Tuesday morning where he said, look, the straits are done. Iran is done. If you want the oil, go get it. And we're not effectively going to, you know, you want it, go get it. But
that's what you texted me. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, and that one, and what he said last night, for all intents and purposes, is like, look, the straits are going to open naturally over time. We can, you know, if you want to come in and help us, you know, you want to come in and open it up for yourself and go get the oil, go for it. If you want our help, you know, fine, we'll give you a little bit of help. But the reality is that the United States is open for business. We're rewiring the flow of oil around the world. We want to take control over shipping, insurance, and reinsurance, and the whole financial aspect of the global oil trade. And y'all can just come get it from us.
So what are the boots on the ground about? Because that's burning a lot of moral capital.
You see, I don't know that there's a lot of, you see, I think all of that at this point is a lot
of
bravado and over. It's
stagecraft.
It's stagecraft. Right. The Marines are there staged. If anybody wants us to do this, we will bring the Marines in, take Kashem or the little islands or anything. This morning, the Iranians in Oman, which is hilarious. It's Oman, by the way, because Oman is literally nothing but an MI6 listening post masquerading as a country. Because it is. I mean, literally, MI6 has like 3 or 4 major listening posts on the Horn. I mean, they control the information flow, which then it goes back to Lloyd's of London, blah, 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 blah. So that they're going to manage flow through the Straits. Well, if anybody looks at a map and, you know, like seriously looks at a map, all the navigable waters are in Oman. They're Omani territory waters. They're not Iranian territorial water. So in effect, if you believe in UNCLOS and all of that, well, I got news for you. Iran is literally threatening piracy, threatening the entire world with piracy. That's what it is. Okay. Elementally. So does Iran have the ability to close the straits? Well, they have the ability to threaten people, but as I've been saying for weeks now, really it's about shipping insurance. If the ships can't move because they can't get insured, Lloyd's of London and the P&I group over in London, they're the ones that have effectively closed the straits. Trump could open it up or whatever tomorrow. He doesn't want to open it up. He's literally putting the squeeze play on Europe and saying, hey, buy the oil from us, buy the oil from Venezuela, buy the oil from wherever you want, buy the oil from the Saudis, who are now moving 7 million barrels a day through the Red Sea, through the pipeline at the Red Sea. Like, we're just going to rewire the entire world so that the Hormuz choke point isn't a choke point anymore.
And the schmucks in Europe don't know what to do.
Yeah, diesel.
Never do.
Diesel. I think diesel is like $200. It's effectively $200 a barrel now. In Europe,
someone said diesel was way more important than straight up oil and straight up gasoline.
It absolutely is, especially for Europe, because remember they moved over to diesel fuel for their cars. The first stage of their green insanity was to get off of gasoline onto diesel, and then they said, well, you can't have diesel anymore. Now you got to go to EVs, and that shift about 7 or 8 years ago in rhetoric is what really started to give the populist right across Europe its wings, and that's when AfD and the Italians and all of them. That's when it really started to take off. It was like in conjunction with that, because it was the yellow vests that complained that the yellow vests started over France putting an extra 25-cent tax on per gallon or per liter or whatever the hell it was on diesel fuel.
Right.
And they're like, dude, this is insane. What are you talking about? You told us to buy diesel, so we bought diesels. Now you're telling us diesel is evil? Like, it's all this fucking Club of Rome shit over and over and over again. They just want to kill everybody. You know?
But I don't think you need to invoke the city of London to explain why they're not insuring ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. I wouldn't underwrite their policy.
Well, again, they've never in over 300 years canceled a shipping insurance policy. The Houthis were blowing up ships, and all they did was raise the premiums. So this is different because this, I think, represents a different kind of existential
didn't know
threat
that.
to. Yeah. No, that was very
They've
important.
never. All
They've
right.
never canceled an insurance contract. You're right, Dave. Normal people wouldn't do that. I agree. If you
Well,
were,
I
if
wouldn't
you,
get on a ship either.
well, yeah,
I'd say, look, I'm going to go I'm going to go get a job laying pipe or something. I mean,
you would think. What I'm saying is you would think that the Americans going in there to dismantle the potential threat of the IRGC blowing up boats, blowing up, oil tankers in the strait would be welcomed by the insurance companies as opposed to fought them. And in every way, the UK has been against this. They tried to sell Diego Garcia out from underneath us. They did all of this stuff. This is old stuff. And it's been hidden below the surface for a long, long time. I had a long talk with a guy over the weekend at Cornerstone. He described the IRGC to me in a way that I think makes the most sense. They're a private equity firm with a military. And their primary investors are all old London companies. They profit on the chaos. They profit on keeping the chaos premium on the global economy. That's how they are.
Isn't it true that Israel would like to see Iran get turned into a sheet of glass?
Yes, agreed. No, I'm not arguing that. The interesting part about this is that the United States and Iran and Israel have they are two countries with two sets of interests about Iran, and the overlap is this, but they're doing this for two separate sets of reasons. Right? The United States wants out of the Middle East. They want done with all this. They want to rewire the world. They want to get rid of this shadow banking and offshore dollar system that has kept us going for another 50 years. The Israelis, especially Netanyahu's Likudniks, they just want the Iranian regime destroyed. And so those two things are similar, but not the same. Okay. And that's why Trump can be honestly angry when Netanyahu orders an Iranian refinery bombed, or this done or that done. All of these things that that were like, this doesn't make any sense in this framework. Me and my friend Alex Craner and I disagree about this, because he's like, why did they kill Khamenei? Right? Because if you do that, you're like inflaming religious tensions and all this other stuff. I'm like, well, that's a Netanyahu play. I don't think that's necessarily a Trump play.
Are killing the people who you have to negotiate with. And so when you listen to Trump at the podium, admittedly, he speaks in cryptic, bizarro Trump language. You take him seriously, not literally. But you get the sense he didn't know if he was talking to the right people. And that's what happens when you kill the right people.
I think he said as much. And
he did say as much, but you don't know.
He's been saying as much for the last 3 weeks. We're not really
right.
sure who we're talking to.
And that's a problem. Now, tell me what's wrong with this worldview. Israel would like to destroy Iran. No question. Mm-hmm. They'd like to destroy Lebanon. They're squeegeeing, the Gaza Strip. So Israel's got ambitions which I don't support in any way, shape, or form.
Me either.
What's with the yarmulke AIs? I don't understand. But in any event, so if I'm Iran, I want the world economy brought to its knees so that the next time Israel says we're going to go at Iran again, the rest of the world will mug the Israelis and say, you shut the fuck up. We don't need this again.
Well,
that's what, if I were Iran, I would make sure the world paid dearly for Israel's attacks.
I don't think they're in a position to do anything anymore.
I'm not.
I think we're just rolling them, and that's the end of it.
I am absolutely agnostic still on the question of who's going to run out of weapons, and you get both sides of the story. And I don't know who to believe.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple of things about that, and it is a set of premises that fits most of the facts. I'm not going to argue that, and I'm also not going to argue that I've been saying forever that I want to see Israel's regional ambitions tamped down as well. Like, I want peace in the Middle East, but the question you have to ask is how you get there. And what did I say during the 12-day war last year? I said, what's my goal? What do I want to see out of it? What's my optimal outcome? A tie and a lot of injuries. Both countries take a punch in the mouth. both countries realize that a war between them is effectively existential. If
But
the
to call
great
that
powers,
a 12-day war is stupid too.
well,
It
whatever.
really undermines the whole concept of war.
I agree. I agree. But let's just the 12-day conflict, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Like the that's what we got, right? And so, in order for the Likudniks in power in Israel to be brought to their knees, right? You have to invalidate them the same way you have to invalidate the desires of the neocons who want the same thing. Remember, if you look at this war today, the British are upset about it, the French are upset about it, the Atlantic is upset about it. Bill Kristol hates it.
Spain, Italy,
right? Well, Italy is an interesting thing. I think Italy's got
Meloni was pretty outspoken yesterday.
She was. She also lost a very important referendum, and France there's a whole bunch of shit going on between them and France. So we have to set that aside. I've been following that. Okay, so because Meloni has been all over the map on this thing, right?
I have a crush on Meloni.
Who doesn't? So if you look at who's angry about this thing, because they know what Trump's eventual goal is. His goal is to bring the IRGC to its knees, strengthen civilian government, give the opportunity for the civilian government in Iran, as weak as it is. Remember, the president's still alive. The foreign minister is still alive. These are important. These are the people that are, and then the people beyond underneath them are negotiating as well. This is a separation. Let's separate out the IRGC, which is what he's trying to do, and get rid of that, which is where the threat comes from, and bolster the civilian government. The civilian government, because that technocracy, functions in Iran. It functions just fine. So it's, again, which Iran are we talking about? Which Israel are we talking about? There are multiple factions in both countries. There are multiple factions in the United States. None of these countries are monoliths, and none of these countries, and they all have multiple agendas, and they're all fighting internally. They all have a mess on the ground politically, and so. To simplify it for people who understand, to see what they've already seen, is to go, Iran is just Venezuela on steroids, right? We went in, we decapitated the as Ian Burlingame would put it, the Praetorian Guards in Venezuela, exfiltrated Maduro for our own reasons to get the information that he has on, everything that's been going on, right? From voter fraud to the money laundering and all of it, the drug trafficking and all of that stuff. Bring Maduro out. He does the right.
I know.
He took the deal. And Trump gave him the deal.
He's still living.
Right. Well, and he got his wife out. I mean, we got his wife out and everything else. And eventually they negotiated for a couple of weeks. Maduro eventually chose life. Trump was as good as his word and said, we're going to send the snake eaters in. We're going to do the work. And we did it. And then worked with the civilian government in Venezuela to start fixing Venezuela, right? And make them a partner, not a vassal state. Now, of course, the cynical will say it's just imperialism. That's fine. You can look at it that way. You can look at it the other way. It may be a bit of both, guys. I'm not here to make, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to convince you of whatever, extreme of those two things you may believe. Now, look at Iran. It's a much bigger problem, right? And I posted something up the other day. Somebody wrote a really great article. I think it was a guy by the name of Gummy Bear or something. He had a big, long article.
I know Gummy Bear.
Okay, you know him?
Bear.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know who he is, but...
I don't either. But I read this. He said it was Iran was pursuing the North Korea thing. Built enough, they had the ability to wipe out Seoul with missiles. And so therefore, we couldn't go in there and stop them from developing a nuclear weapon or from the Chinese giving it to them. What you pick, take your pick. So eventually they were able to get a nuclear weapon. And now we have this terrible situation. So what did Trump try to do during his first term? Go talk to Kim Jong-un, try and open up relations there, went to the DMZ, met with him and everything else. And John Bolton blew the fucking second round of talks up in Hanoi. Trump does the same thing here with Iran. He's negotiating the entire time, and every time he gets close to a deal, the Israelis, Netanyahu, blows it up because he wants the chaos.
Exactly.
He likes the chaos, but Trump doesn't want the chaos. Unfortunately, so what Trump is doing is like, look, I'm taking the blackmail off the board as best I can, and I'm going to serve America's interest in that way. It's going to be messy. It's going to be ugly. There's nothing you can do about it. You either have to rip the Band-Aid off, or Iran gets enough ballistic missiles, and you just take them at their word. Listen to Marco Rubio, listen to Trump, listen to these people talk. And for all intents and purposes, they're not lying. And the problem is that Netanyahu is a sinister figure with his own fucking agenda. And my personal opinion, my personal hope is that he's dead, and that all these AI videos of him are just AI. That none of the videos of him since he was reportedly killed
unambiguous hard evidence that he's alive or not.
I don't have it at this point, so I'm gonna assume that he's still I'm gonna assume that he's still alive because he's the wild card, because he could still do something really fucking dumb. And that's what I'm worried about. Now, I'm not worried about what we just did, but we have some data points that tell us that Trump is willing to stay in the Persian Gulf if everybody says, yes, we're willing to come in and take and clean things, and we want to take the oil and clean things up and get the thing flowing. If you want to do so, because we're resupplying, another wing of A-10s are coming in. And the A-10s I think the A-10 has been the key to understanding what's been going on here, because it's the perfect plane to fly in the straits in the Persian Gulf to do what needs to be done to stop any remnant of Iran's war plans with the fast attack boat drone strategy. The A-10 is like the perfect weapon for this.
Yeah, it's a Warthog.
Yeah, we're talking about the Warthog. Yeah, the Warthog is just a perfect weapon for this. Better than the F-35, better than anything else we have in our arsenal.
Yeah, it can linger and hover and go in close. And
yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine at Cornerstone this weekend. Did a lot of work on this. Former F-16 pilot, has flown the A-10. I learned a lot about Air Force logistics and all of it this weekend. And he was like, "Look, there's just nothing. It's the perfect weapon for this. This is exactly what we're dealing with. Like the F-22s went home because there's nothing else for them to kill."
My question is, what is so difficult about locating what the launch sites are for whatever launch sites are being used to protect the strait itself? With with other than long range or medium range missiles. I mean, it's basically short range stuff.
Right.
So you'd think that they'd be able to get like heat signatures and coordinates of the launchers and know where the boats are. I mean, we can see everything that's going on there. And Trump said as much last night.
Exactly. What I'll say is this: if you don't light those launchers up, then there's no heat signature. If you don't light the boats up, if they don't come out, then they're still sitting there, right? Yeah. Because they're just dormant. They're underground. What I've heard and what I've seen, posted is that the secondary targets were there's still the guys on the rocks with the man pads or whatever it is that whatever's there, right? Those guys are still there. But if you bomb the resupply behind them, now they're bazookas. Now they're fire and forget because there's no resupply. So apparently we've been bombing behind that, collapsing all the logistics tunnels so that they can't resupply. And then eventually they get cut off, and it's like, look, like what are you going to do? Now remember, Iran's mosaic strategy, or the IRGC. I want to make this point clear: the IRGC, not Iran, because Iran is a different entity. The IRGC's mosaic strategy is operative. We're watching it happen, which is that there are guys sitting in bunkers or wherever going, yep, on this date, I'm supposed to do this. On this date, I'm supposed to do that. These are my targets. And they're just doing it. And eventually they're going to run out of stuff. And it may take some time. This thing is not over, but from a strategic perspective, it's over. So now the hope is, everybody can come to their senses, and the civilian, and we work with the civilian military as best as possible, the civilian military and the civilian government to strengthen it. Because remember, it was completely starved. The IRGC had nearly complete control over all weaponry in Iran. Like the civilian military, for all intents and purposes, like the local cops, right? And even then, the IRGC had the Bashid forces, which are local on the ground as well. So we're dealing with a very, very, this is a complicated situation at best as possible. But, from an American perspective, we're not going to allow them to have unlimited ballistic missiles and a nuclear weapon, and then use that to have control over all of the geographic choke points of global trade. Not going to do it. Not going to do it.
And, Mr. Trump is quite explicit about his, the joker in the deck is whether he's just going to turn the lights out in all over Iran. And if he does that, it's really all over. Personally, I don't
hope he doesn't do
understand.
that. I hope he doesn't do that. I hope he doesn't do
I
that.
think I think he hopes he doesn't do it, and everybody does, because they really don't want Iran to be turned back into the Stone Age.
Well, let me.
But it's not off the table. If they're so intransigent and they can't, they will not sort of join the civilized society of nations. That it's not off the table, and they'll just have to deal with it.
I'm just not convinced that the military dominance that you guys are describing is true. Let me just put that simple. There are smart guys out there who say, look, here's what's going to happen. At some point, one country is going to keep launching and the other country is not going to be responding. And that's how we're going to know the answer. And if I were Iran, for example, and I wanted to make Israel suffer, I'd knock out their desalination plants. And then Israel dies of thirst. They die of thirst.
Or we find out, or we get to the Samson option, and
which then everyone loses.
Right. So maybe that's a bluff, Dave.
Maybe it's a bluff, but also, these are just humans, and you can imagine some guys say, "Fuck it, go for the desalination plants. I've had enough of these guys."
Well, we'll see.
And that would be a human crisis of unprecedented proportions, potentially.
I agree.
I don't think Iran is that powerless. I just don't. And I do sincerely believe that Iran needs this to end, with the world learning that they should not let Israel attack them again. I believe that Iran's got to achieve that.
Well, I don't know that they have the ability. We'll see.
I think they do.
Really. I will see if. I think if they do that, they will find themselves with zero friends in the world. I really do.
I know, but we describe
they're already pretty much there.
That's right. We describe these guys as crazy, and then we say, but they won't act crazy. This is what I don't understand.
I never thought the IRGC was crazy.
George Friedman wouldn't describe it as crazy either. He always says never underestimate any party in this global game of chess.
I agree. The people that are crazy, the ones that will burn everything to the ground, are in London and Brussels and BIS. That's what I think. That's the people I'm worried about. That's where we're seeing the minute it started to look like this thing was winding down. We saw oil refineries all around the world getting attacked. We saw the Ukrainians run a drone attack on the oil processing facilities in St. Petersburg. I got news for you.
Ukrainians, really? You want to call that Ukrainians doing that?
Wait, no. Again, I'm said that's Ukrainians. I'm going to use my air quotes.
Quote.
Okay,
Americanish Ukrainians. Yeah.
You think those were Americans?
Yes.
I can tell you. No, I think those were British. I think that
whatever.
was French.
Western.
No, that's very important.
Well, maybe, but it's not Ukrainians.
Let me finish the point. When I said this, those could only fly over Poland and the Baltics to get there. They didn't fly over Russia for 500 miles before getting there. So yes, so someone is trying to continue to escalate in Ukraine to stop Ukraine from finishing, and now you have to go back to Europe is fucked. They need the collapse in order to
agree on Europe is fucked.
Well,
Europe is fucked is a universal thought process.
Right. But again, this is the thing that's really important, is that what would they do in that scenario? Europe, what would they do? Everything you've been seeing. And so now we go to the financial markets to see what's going on. The interesting part about this morning is that after I've been following the Brent WTI spread, like mad.
It's huge right now, right? It's huge.
No, it just went negative.
That's what I mean. It's wacky.
It's wacky. It's all over the place. And it's funny. Right before we got online, I looked it up this morning, and at one point it was plus $20, where Brent was over WTI by almost $20 during the height of all the chaos. And now, after Trump's speech last night, it collapsed like $5, and now WTI is trading $2 above Brent. And I texted Vince Lanci this morning. I'm like, is oil in backwardation now, where the global oil markets are bifurcating? And Trump said last night, oh, by the way, we're open for business. No one can put a chokehold on Americans supplying oil around the world. And then demand for our oil went through the roof, even though it's highly supplied. And Brent is getting screwed. Here's the thing about this. I've been screaming about this for years, that volatility on the Brent contract has more than doubled in the last 3 years since Biden and company, or 4 years since Biden and company decided. I mean, Biden, use my scare quotes because Biden wasn't real. Doubled right at the beginning, in the lead up to the Russia moving into Ukraine. Right, they were raising oil volatility on a weekly basis, was just going fucking ballistic. And I'm like, what are they doing? Because at the end of the day, if they're trading the volatility, they're using the volatility to their advantage, right? If you're thinking like London now, which they always do, what happens eventually to price discovery on the Brent contract? You flush out all of the spec longs, you flush all the players out, you wind up with no volume. And eventually, if price discovery isn't happening on a market, eventually that market dies. They were trying to move, obviously, what they were trying to do was destroy the Brent contract and move it to Dubai. And now Trump has said, no, sorry, it's moving back to WTI. And this is a war for the pricing control of the marginal barrel of oil. That's what this is about.
Now, you mentioned in passing the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why did you mention them? What do you suppose their role in this is? Because you made them appear to be as central and equal as the EU and London and
the BIS is the central bank of the central banks, right? Mm-hmm. It's the bank that all the central banks do business with. Mm-hmm. Well, if Trump is executing a war against the British central banking model, then he's actually executing a war against the BIS as well.
But the BIS is like what Hitler used to say about the Pope. How many divisions does the BIS have? How many naval units does the BIS have?
Right. No, I agree, and this is where you have to say, at the end of the day, pricing leverage over the strategic commodities of the world. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I go back to my whole argument about SOFR versus LIBOR. What was SOFR all about? SOFR was about the United States getting control over the pricing of US dollars. And by extension, then the euro dollar system, right? LIBOR was the standard of the euro dollar system. Where if you want to declare independence to the United States, the first thing you got to do is get control over the price of your own fucking money. Then you go after the pricing of savings, which is gold and silver, which we were executing last year, while executing a change in the way we fund the way the American economy operates. And then after that, you go after the liquidity, which is what keeps liquid global trade, obviously the flow of oil. So that's the three-stage process in my head that's been going on, and it's been happening since Trump's first term. Well, when Powell and John Williams started the whole SOFR project.
How does disorder in the Bank of International Settlements reflect on the stability of the European banking system, which is already extremely wobbly?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's like what we're talking about now is that those banks are the European banking system is only capable of continuing to operate the way it operates at all if the Bank of England and the ECB can continue to
float their loans
and control bond spreads and control bond yields, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we're watching, and I think this is why I keep watching bond spreads so freaking closely, and I'm like, and it's all right there in the bond spreads, the currencies and everything else. And it's really funny that, you raise the price of oil in Europe to, I don't know, $120, $140 a barrel, whatever. They got to keep the euro up in order to be able to offset the rise in the price of oil. So what's Scott Bessent doing? So, but at the same time, they also need to sell their U.S. Treasury stock in order to do that. So you're watching like
and
all of this
possibly sell gold.
And possibly sell gold at times. If that was Turkey, by the way, selling gold. There's at least two reasons why Turkey would have sold gold.
Yeah,
How much
five
gold does
tons of
Turkey
gold.
have?
What's
They
that?
sold 5 tons of gold, I guess, recently.
Not that
58
much.
is what I
Oh,
thought.
58?
I heard 58.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a little bigger.
Yeah. Now let's unpack that. This is a very important one as well. And Iran is at the center of this story as well. Again, I've been following this thing for 15 years, and it was only, it's like slowly but surely, like putting all these pieces together. So when Obama cut Iran out of the SWIFT system for the first time back in December of 2011, right after that, Turkey changed its banking rules to allow commercial banks to hold gold as reserves. So when you go to the
India just did this year.
but did they do that as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, they were doing it with silver, certainly. So again, both of these are British outposts, by the way. This is important.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I'm sorry, can't help myself. Got to do it. So why did Turkey do that? Well, because Iran needed to be able to sell its oil on the open market, and they needed to be able to launder those sales through somebody's banking system. So we had many reports of this, back then, that Iran was selling their oil for gold into the Turkish banks. Turkish banks were then, getting them, swapping that into whatever currency they needed, right? And so that Iran could stay alive. Fine, whatever. I back then I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would do if I were Iran. And the Turks doing that. So when you see the IMF list of everybody's official gold reserves, there's an asterisk next to Turkey, because it fluctuates based on the money that's flowing in and out of the Turkish banking system. If the Turks have 540 tons of gold, whatever the hell it is, why has the lira been getting crushed? Because it has nothing to do with the lira. This is money that's just flowing through. This is just gold flowing through Turkish banks. That has nothing to do with, improving the net capital position of the country of Turkey, right? So the Turkish government doesn't have any freaking gold, or if they do, they have very little.
Much as Canada.
Right, it's like Canada, right? No, exactly. Perfect. Don't even get me started about Canada. I've been following that shit as well. Like Mark Carney is like trying to save the Bank of England every fucking month by destroying the Canadian economy. But again, I don't want to hog the mic too much here, but I want to try and get all of this stuff out to you guys so you can chew on it and start seeing it, at least the way I do, and then tell me whether I'm crazy. I don't give a shit. So the point
you want
being,
that answer now? Do you want that answer now, Tom?
yes. Okay. So that note about Turkey is very telling, because it could mean one of two things. We had March deliveries on the LBMA contract for gold, and the Turkey could just swap the gold with the LBMA in order to cover their liabilities, or it could have been Iran was in, the IRGC were in serious money troubles and called in a bunch of their gold, and Turkey had to sell it in order to.
Okay, well, stop there for a moment. Stop for a moment, because we know that Iran is both bankrupt and running on a ruined currency.
Mm-hmm.
So how can they even transact in the world these days?
Well, that's the thing. Which Iran?
Well, whichever Iran there is,
right.
They're running on the rial, which is worthless.
Right.
I heard their inflation problem was attenuating for unknown reasons. Is that true?
I don't know. I haven't heard.
No, they just printed a $10 million rial note, which is worth something like
but I heard
like 500ths of a dollar.
Hyperinflation has been coming back under control, which surprised me.
Yeah.
I have an aphorism. One of the problems I have with the complex models is this aphorism that says "Man plans, God laughs," and so this idea that we're going to do this, so they'll do this, so they'll do this. I go, yeah, and something else will happen.
I agree.
The next question: we've been watching wars from our living rooms for many decades now. And it's like a reality TV show for us, where for the Gulf War, for example, what a great war we got, what great coverage, watching Schwarzkopf, showing us cool videos and stuff. I have this sense of karmic this karmic foreboding that says one of these days we're going to discover that bombing the shit out of people has consequences.
Yeah.
And I just do not believe that we can just go around the world. At some point, we're going to hit what the Romans hit, or the Kimmeries, I think, and get their ass kicked. And some point, and we do pay because we pay in inflation and things like that. We do pay, but we don't know it. At some point, I think we're going to pay. Now, that leads to my next question, a real question, and that is, there are those who say that we are now past the fail-safe point where there are people around the world who are going to suffer because of the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. It's already in the cards. If they open it up today, they're still toast, having to do with helium, having to do with fertilizer, having to do with all the commodities that run the world. Do you agree with that or not?
Oh,
I think we're in a resource scramble for sure, and have been.
No. But if we somehow got our shit together today, is it too late? Are we going to? Japan, for example, and Korea are so dependent upon energy.
No, I think the world is sorting out winners and losers now, and then Mr. Trump is keenly aware of that and wants to make sure we're not among the losers.
Yeah, but no. That's right. And the people who say the world's already in trouble say that the U.S. is going to be in the best shape.
Mm-hmm.
But the claim is that we've already passed the fail-safe point, and that there are going to be food shortages because of the fertilizer shortages. Is that doom porn, or is that real?
I do not think it's doom porn. I think it's a necessary consequence of trying to reorganize the world.
So this is going to be a painful transition, is what you're saying.
Yes, I've been saying
it's a resource scramble. It's got to be. It's musical chairs. They're going to be some.
Someone yanked the chairs out.
What's interesting about this is two things I think that are vastly underreported. I was talking to Halsey English about this the other day.
Number one is truth.
Yeah. No. What I'm going to say is there's two things. These are just basic facts, right? Arizona is sitting on helium reserves that are insane. They're huge. There's helium reserves in Arizona. You want to know why all the chip factories in the United States are being built in Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's one.
Not because of water.
No.
Well, but exactly. NVIDIAs are not made in Arizona.
But
let's start with that.
Well, this is just one of those things. Like all of a sudden, we're all experts on the helium market. We're all experts on the fertilizer market and this and everything. I'm not saying that those aren't concerns. They are absolutely concerns, and we're going to go through a period of, oh my God, what do we do?
I've worried about helium for many years.
Yeah. So no, go look up the known reserves of helium in Arizona. It's pretty impressive.
So when you say these are in-ground reserves or above-ground reserves?
In-ground reserves.
You don't want to store it above ground. They're not reserved for lawn.
So there's that. There's that. There's the other side of it is we are now we produce more helium than Qatar did. Right? Qatar was about half. We are producing about. We crossed the threshold where we're producing more than half, and as a function of total supply. That's one. The second one is that the United States has got I think 3 LNG terminals coming online this year. Like our exports of LNG are going to go through the roof. It's not just going to be Cheniere anymore. There's all sorts of stuff coming, and no one talks about
helium coming out of that.
Yeah, and these are not just for birthday balloons, of course.
Yes,
this is for
not. And
the fact we put them in birthday balloons is staggering to me. But
how about this one? I said, so again, doing some me and my combative Twitter feed. I'm like, okay, so we're blowing up a bunch of the helium reserves. That means we're going to slow down chip production, which slows down the rollout of the AI panopticon. I'm trying to see the downside here. I mean, maybe we do need to take a freaking break for about 18 months. And this is my point. So maybe we need to take a break for about 18 months and everybody go.
But here's the downside. The downside is the world has discovered an just-in-time inventory sort of philosophy that excess capacity costs money and therefore don't do it. For the last half century, that's been the message. So when you take out a supplier of something, you now have a shortage.
Agreed. And, Dexter White and I have had many a conversation about the fact that the country should not be running their strategic commodity management, supply chain management on Keiretsu. That's a bad idea because this is exactly the problem. These are the moments. And so now you got to ask yourself, why are we doing that? This is, again, we are transitioning away from globalism towards mercantilism, as my friend, as our colleague and friend Vince Lanci would put it, meaning regional, national production, regional and or national production of control of supply chains, as opposed to global interconnected supply chains. See, globalism in theory sounds great. We all just stitched the world together. Stitch the world together with interdependencies. Create Taiwan as a means with all the chips, that means that nobody can attack Taiwan because then the world depends upon Taiwan. That was the way it was sold to us. And what it turns out to be, it's just a choke point that somebody put a fucking toll booth on. And I'm tired, and we're tired of that world. It's
like World War One, where there was no reason in the world to get in a big fight, but they did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they got into a fight for reasons that we don't perceive and don't want to admit to ourselves. Because in some ways, the aphorism that history is written by the winners is true. I do not consider it completely true. I consider it somewhat true, right? And then how history is taught to us and what we think about our own history, I think is also very, that part of the history is, written by the winners is true. But I do not believe that it's...
And what's really interesting, just reflecting back on my education, is that history would have been a lot more interesting if they actually taught us the truth rather than the sanitized form.
Oh, I agree.
I would have loved history if they told us the actual stories.
Yeah,
Instead, we're memorizing when Magellan, without mentioning he failed to circumnavigated the world. Right.
Which is why.
Yeah, there's just so many things, guys. It's
a fascinating subject until you start lying about it.
Well, and that's why conspiracies are so alluring, is because they're attractive, as opposed to, well, they voted on this and they voted on that. It's a lot more fascinating to be like, oh, they have a video of that guy eating a baby, and that's why they did this.
That would have caught my attention in
class. All right. And what Tom said about World War I is...
Well, the question I like to ask, by the way, is name a country that doesn't lie to optimize its narrative. There never has been one.
No, of course
there never has been one.
How many times have I said?
So then my next question that I've been using lately is, okay, now tell me what happened on October 7th.
Exactly.
Oh, I have a
and they'll sit there and they'll go, oh, fuck, I'm cornered, aren't I? Right? And then they'll say, well, at least we know a lot of people died. And they go, do you?
Well,
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
See, I have theories on October 7th that fit my model. And they seem to fit pretty well. And I went back and forth on what I thought happened on October 7th.
Well, first of all, was there a stand-down order?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course there was. You can use Israeli sources to make that case. You don't need to go outside the state of Israel to make that case.
Using the things that we know, I can construct a model. And I've been saying this for almost 3 years now.
But this is what's driving the American people nuts.
Agreed.
Because then they're saying, okay, so October 7th was bullshit at some level.
But whoa. It wasn't bullshit. I didn't say that.
No, it wasn't bullshit.
Right.
But it's a big lie.
There are lies in the story as of what actually.
A chunk of it's a lie.
Okay, so here's this is the way I look at it. And I've been thinking about this for a long time and trying to make it all work in my head. And I think it's pretty straightforward, actually, when you stop to think about it. Again, think about Israel, think about who created it, think about who maintains the chaos, think about who profits from the chaos, and all of the stuff that I talked about already. Netanyahu was told by the UK, stand down, because we're gonna do this. It's gonna be small. It's gonna be this thing that's, we're gonna kill. Hamas is gonna attack, kill a couple of people, and then you're gonna get your justification to go in and start, and have cover for it. And they went fucking crazy.
Right.
And a lot of people died. And I think that And if you look at, and it was paid for by Qatar
Who's
and
they
the
went
British.
crazy? Who?
So you're saying it was supposed to be a smaller event?
And it was supposed to be a smaller event than it was. It was sold to Netanyahu as a smaller event than it was, and then it got. And then, because here's the thing, why would the British do that? Because Israel as an asset is the rapidly depreciating one. Because
Simon Dixon, he thinks Israel's going to become sort of a post-it at some point in the future.
It's possible, but that's just the Kissinger role. I happen to think that Simon Dixon was seated. This is my personal opinion, and I've told Simon this directly. And I'm like, I just think you were put out. I think you were brought out here to be the anti-me. Sorry, I think you're a British asset. That's what I think. I'm sorry. He's always blaming the Americans for everything and never blaming the British for anything. He even it's got the beard and the thing. I'm like, oh, really? You're going to start smoking cigars too? Okay. Seriously, I'm not kidding.
But does he snort cocaine off a hooker's ass? That's the question.
Ukrainian hooker's pussy. I don't know. Tommy, what do you think?
I was just listening to that episode. The quote I always use, I was actually almost texted it to you. The quote, one of the first quotes Tom and I ever shared when we were talking was a quote from Tim Dillon. I'm re-listening to the episode yesterday. It's right when the Ukrainian war broke out. And they're talking about, they're like, they always do this when a war breaks out. They go, normal leaders have self-preservation, but he's not normal. You can apply that to any leader, any bullshit war. And Tim Dillon's line is, they're acting like Putin doesn't have mansions and he doesn't like to go on a yacht and eat caviar out of Ukrainian horse pussy. And I always look at that as like, that is like, oh, it is like, it's funny, but it's also like grounded. Like they all have their own interests. The idea that they lack self-interest. No, they don't. That's the same argument they've always used. Well, they're not rational. Yes, they are.
Yeah. So just to finish the October 7th thing, and this is some of this I didn't come up with all this up on my own. I chatted with Alex Craner. It's like, no, dude, seriously, we know that this was funded by the British and Hamas to kill, and British and Qatars to tell Hamas to go, because there's two Hamases. There's the one that gets money from Netanyahu and the Israelis, and then there's another one that gets money from the British and the Qataris. And so what makes sense to me is that because Israel is from a geopolitical perspective, a rapidly depreciating asset, because American demographics are real, and Gen X barely gives a shit about Israel. The millennials can give less than two shits, and the fucking Zoomers are like, fuck Israel. That's the way they are at this point, and for a variety of reasons. And it's even worse now after 3 years of, it's okay to blame the Jews for everything, which is horrible. And I wasn't in this mindset when 10/7 happened. But the more I watched the Jews are behind everything, I'm like that's a reductionist bullshit. I know it is, right? And so, why is somebody?
But they're not helping themselves either. Of course
they aren't.
For example, and I think they're legit. I think they're real. When official Israel sources are putting out videos showing that they've now passed the death penalty for terrorist Palestinians with a 99% conviction rate, and then showing them drinking champagne when the law was passed, and showing pictures of nooses, I'm going, what are you guys doing?
I know. I'm not arguing.
Understand.
I'm telling you, when some of the Israelis and the word Jewish people that I know, I hate to use the word Jews because it's such a pejorative.
Sounds like Hitler.
I've thought about that.
I hate that.
It sounds like Juden. That's the problem. I've thought about this hard. So I've been trying to acclimate to not worrying about that. Jewish people makes you sound like a nitwit.
Right. Okay. So fine. The Jews.
How about people of Jewishness?
However, I don't know.
How to butcher the language, Jim.
There you go.
Here to join us is our translator, Jim Kunstler.
Yeah. So what I
what
mean
Tom
by
really
this
means is
what I'm getting at here is that
he just juice-plained that to you.
Yeah, exactly. And all the juicebergs that are out there have run with the pat narrative created by the Candace Owens.
I get all my news off of Jake TV.
So my
what
point
was your
is
point,
that,
Tom?
my point is, Dave, Jim, Tommy, is that they constructed a perfect event to drive the Israeli people murderous, the same way that we got driven murderous after 9/11.
Sure. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Right.
And And
Good
I
analogy.
think that's a fair analogy. And if that was constructed, then everything makes sense after that. And it was designed as the jumping off point for what Blaine Holt calls World War Next, because God, fuck it, so we're on a World War at least 5 at this point, or whatever. It doesn't matter. That was the inciting incident to then send us on this timeline. And at that point in time, remember 2 things: Donald Trump was most likely going to be in jail or killed in October of 2023. He wasn't going to make it through the primaries. They were going to give us Nikki Haley or somebody equally horrific, right? It was going to be, Haley. I always said it was going to be Haley versus Kamala Harris. I called that back in February of 2024. When it
Haley
was starting.
wasn't getting legs at all.
Oh,
not
right.
at all.
Right, but then they had the backup plan, which was just kill Trump at Butler, Pennsylvania, and then insert the other Indian into the race.
Oh, right. Ramaswamy or whatever his name is.
No. Nikki Haley, Nimrata versus Kamala Harris.
Oh. Okay.
Duh. Like, it's so
But
fucking
Nikki
obvious.
Haley just wasn't. She was getting as much. I guess the two have, between the two of them, one pair of legs.
Right. But neither of them are. They're both horrific people.
And none of them really had much popular support.
It doesn't matter.
Zero. I got as many electoral college votes as goddamn Kamala.
Yeah, well, and that's the point, is that you want to make sure that America doesn't win. You give them an election that is completely and utterly unacceptable to everybody, right? And
Joe Biden should have been that one.
Well, he certainly was, which is why we wound up with Trump anyway, right? So, all of this that's my argument about 10-7 and everything, and so there's all these nuggets of truth with lies wrapped around.
By the way, there's only one thing missing from your 10-7 thesis, which is how avid Hamas was to run in there and do terrible, terrible damage.
Yeah, no, I think they did that.
I'm not sure you know what they did. I'm not convinced you know what they did.
Well, in support of what Jim's saying is, that's real. Like, when I look at something like 9/11, it's like, oh, so it was the U.S. government. I'm like, no, I think there were genuine terrorists that fucking hated us. I think what we did was let it happen. It doesn't mean what they did doesn't mean that they didn't do it. That's
right.
I don't think the Arabs flew the planes.
Yeah, I mean either. I'm with you. I think they were probably in the plane. I don't think they were flying.
I think they're sitting there going, "Holy fuck!
Right. Maybe.
What do we do now?"
I thought we were supposed to land these.
Yeah, I thought the pilot was supposed to.
But the point is,
plane to the ground.
The point is, there is no shortage of finding people that do want to kill you. I think that's what Jim's saying.
No, I mean, and at some point, once I get to a point where I've got all the quote unquote facts that I have, even if the parts of the story are bullshit, if I've got all the incentives lined up, I don't need to know anymore. Like, if other people want to go and do the truth stuff on 9/11 or 10/7, fine, great, do it. I don't care. Like, I'm willing to listen. It's like I said the last time we all got together, and I said to Dave, I'm really. I can't do what you did, going deep dive into the pedophilia and all this shit. I'm glad you did it.
Studying it, not doing it. Just for the record.
No, I'm sorry.
We always have to clarify. I think we had to clarify that last time too.
Yeah. I mean, and I meant that sincerely. And interestingly enough, if you looked at the comments on the YouTube video afterwards, at least 5 people willfully misinterpreted what I said, that Luongo was not trying to ignore everything that happened, trying to ignore all this. See, and he doesn't. I'm like, no, dudes. I'm like, I can't do that because I didn't want to lose my humanity. I didn't want to wind up at the top of a clock tower with a high-powered rifle, just killing people randomly. That's what I would have. That's where I would be if I did what they.
I was just thinking about that clock tower the other day too.
I'm sure you were. So
this reminds me, by the way, of the Charlie Kirk killing, in which I do not believe in any way, shape, or form Tyler Robinson did it. Now, here's what's interesting: once you exclude him, the rest of the details are uninteresting to me,
right?
Because it's state sponsored, and we can talk about which state. That's interesting to me.
I think,
but whether it was the guy in the flannel suit or what, that doesn't matter. There's about 10 different possible ways they did it. But if it wasn't Tyler Robinson, then that story is now a totally different story.
And that is why I refuse, by the way, Tommy, I know you'll appreciate this, and why I've said this before, why I refuse to have an opinion about Joe Kent.
Yeah, you're allowed.
Because I think what he may be doing is trying to push the idea that, look, this is to Dave's point, Tyler Robinson was not the shooter. And that we really do need to seriously look at who was the shooter. Now, or who was behind it all. The day it happened, 15, 20 minutes after I saw it and I got over my shock and my dismay, my brain kicks into, okay, motive, means, opportunity, why, blah, blah, blah. Charlie Kirk, the midterms. Well, I'm like, the fucking London ordered the hit. The Mossad probably carried it out.
Right.
That's, to me, the most obvious solution to the problem. The incentives line up that London et al. Don't want Trump to win the midterms because they're trying to stop the United States from finishing off the American independence. And there are factions within Israel that are still loyal to that part of...
Why did they make it so visible? What's the purpose of that?
I think the value to it is
sure.
Yeah, no, and if I guess on that, like, tiptoe around Joe Kent's like a friend. I've known him for 5 years. He's also I have a rule where I don't talk about all our guests past a certain limit. General Flynn, Dr. Malone. I'm like, they're public figures. You don't have to. You're whatever. I look at the removal of Charlie Kirk as kind of back to the beginning thesis of what you're talking about, forcing Trump to become literally Hitler. Well, how does that play into it? You're removing the motto. You're removing the guy that wore the button-up shirt and was willing to go listen to everybody and say, listen, I don't think you're evil. If you're, they remove that. And as we just go further and further.
Well, why'd they make it so garish?
So
they could have just jammed it with a needle.
I don't have an answer to that, Dave. Why make it?
I actually
don't know.
I actually do. And this is the thing that really is going to bother everybody. So,
oh no,
yeah.
No. Come on.
How about let's go back to Andrew Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart didn't die of a heart attack.
Very similar.
So what happened? So what happened to Andrew Breitbart? They kill him and they insert Steve Bannon into Breitbart and they destroy Breitbart News as a fucking source.
Well, they certainly have destroyed TPUSA.
And they were going to insert Jack Posobiec as the new Charlie Kirk.
There is no new Charlie Kirk and there is no TPUSA at some point in time.
You're removing the center moderate.
So
you're removing the moderate pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're removing these pieces from the board.
I don't even think they were serious about putting stink eye Erica in there. I think they had to have known she couldn't do the job.
I don't think it matters. I think it was a win-win no matter what. They destroyed it. No matter what happened next.
They destroyed it. That's exactly right.
They probably had a secondary objective. Maybe we can hijack it, but they didn't. 99% of it was they removed him.
And the thing is that Charlie Kirk was a naive and honest guy who was just going out there to try and make the world a better place, and didn't realize the forces that he was actually unleashing by telling the truth and actually opening dialogue with people.
You know what puzzles me is we have these killings of people in let's say the conservative movement, the MAGA movement, Trump movement. How come nobody goes after characters like Norm Eisen? Somebody who has created so much mischief in this country and damaged the country so bad. I don't even know
who that is.
It just puzzles me. We certainly have a lot of capable U.S. Army veterans of various special forces who are capable of doing it.
I wouldn't underwrite Tucker's life insurance policy.
I wouldn't underwrite anybody's life insurance policy.
I'm talking about the bad guys.
Well, but
Mark Elias, Mary McCord, Norm Eisen, Andrew Weissman. Why are they still walking around out there?
Vindman.
Yeah.
The Vindmans.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. But Charlie was taken out garishly for some reason. It was not. They could have easily, they could have suicided him, and instead they decided to make it brutally.
Why so garish? I mean, I know from what little I do know, he was very close with JD Vance. Maybe that's like a hey, look at this type thing.
Well, it seemed like a warning to somebody.
Why isn't it just as simple as a kind of a tranny adjacent guy shot him in the neck?
Could be.
Too many gaps in the story. Way too many gaps.
Yeah. It's possible. It's possible. I mean, but again,
no exit wound, no video. The video footage of him running across the roof starts 5 seconds too late.
I'll look at
the text messages were all completely and utterly fucked up.
I'll look at this is the one that like,
but he was there.
Like, yeah,
no, he was there. I think he got
was on the scene.
He didn't realize he was going to be written out of the plot.
So
I have a big problem with the Patsy thesis.
Well, here let me. So for me, like
Jim,
for the glaring thing, like I look at like 9/11 was on that day, literally on that morning, we were doing Operation Vigilant Guardian, which is where all of NORAD was simulating an attack, where planes were passenger planes were hijacked, right? Yeah. No, all over the place. So that's why on 9/11 you had all these fighter jets going real world or simulated. What are the odds of that? Zero. The odds of that is zero. So I've had on Dale Comstock a zillion times before. He's in Delta Force. He says he was a youngest ever member of Delta Force. He said right away, before anything else, he goes, you need a workbench drilled into the ground to unscrew a Mauser. That's the guy that knows how to take shit apart and disappear.
Right.
He goes, and they're saying that he took it apart on the roof. He goes, that right there is physically impossible. So to me, I just look at that one thing. I go, I'm with you, Jim. Crazy trick that happens every day. They go crazy. That right there. It's not that maybe he was a buff guy.
Well, if they were going to set him up as a patsy, why wouldn't they take the trouble to think that through and give him a gun that could be taken apart?
No idea.
There are plenty of those.
No idea. But regardless,
I think
the story is he took it apart.
I think they're actually sloppy. I think the age of shooting JFK is gone, and they use
why they didn't plan that to me. I go, why didn't they plan it? Why didn't they take it into a court? I don't care. They said that's what happened, and that's what. So to me, I know it did.
Again,
we're living in such a world of immersive mind fuckery that I think they've succeeded in fucking everybody's mind into thinking that nothing is real.
I don't think you're wrong.
And I think some things actually are, as real as they appear to be.
Yeah.
It's funny. I never really wanted to think anything other than Tyler Robinson, in the library with the lead pipe. You know what I mean? Like with the high power rifle. I never really wanted, because I was immediately onto what does this mean? What is it going to? I'm beyond the act. I'm beyond the act. I'm into, everything else. That's the way. And same thing with 10-7. I was like, at a certain point,
to get beyond, you have to first say it wasn't just a crazy guy.
Right. I mean, I'm willing to accept everything, right? But I'm looking at the downstream effects of it and going, that's all I care about. And if anybody else wants to do the deep dive and prove it, that's great. Like where's John Cullen, right?
Where is John Cullen?
Yeah,
I had a guy contacting me saying he knows John Cullen and he has seen John Cullen since John Cullen disappeared.
Okay.
And he showed a video, and I got a little creeped out.
Do you have a theory about why he disappeared?
I think Cullen got reassigned. I think Cullen was working for somebody. I think Cullen's job was over.
Fair. I have no problem with that. I think everybody's an intelligence asset at this point, until proven otherwise.
I've been accused of being intelligence, and I'm pretty sure intelligence and me are not using the same sentence at this point. So,
yeah, dude, I've been called everything in the book, under the sun, and I'm like, really? Have you looked at where I podcast from? Like, if all these people were paying me,
limited hangout, Tom. Come on.
I know. I have to.
It's nice there, Tom.
It's a beautiful day out here. This is my favorite part of the day. Like
new construction.
Yeah, it's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not upset or anything like that. I just find it really funny. Like I'm like at the end of the day, I'm supposedly part of, supposedly getting paid by everybody. But I mean, I've got plenty of little stories that I can tell about how I've been reviewing my entire quote unquote career since Gold Goats and Guns started, and I can tell you that I think I've had multiple intelligence handlers from the beginning, trying to shake things. I'm dead serious. No, I didn't know it. I was so desperate to get somebody to listen to what I had to say, because I was trying to make a living. I was literally making nothing. But I mean, I start and going through it all, and I'm like, really? Is it that? Is that what's been going on? I've been reviewing the last 15 years of my personal history and my personal interactions with all of history, right?
You and I did the exact same thing because I just published 17 volumes of
Right.
my year in reviews, all which I had to copy edit and fix some
Right.
shit. And what's really interesting is I had to write a dean's report. And I started to say I haven't gotten anything done because I wrapped up my program a year ago. They said,
Right.
wait a minute. And I go, you published 17 fucking books this year.
Right. Yeah. But it's just it's very
It was
weird.
4,000 pages. 4,000
Yeah,
pages.
it's insane,
Yeah.
Dave.
Well, you deserve tenure.
Yeah, I finally earned my tenure there.
It's just, but for me, it's like, as you come into understanding of how the world works, you have to constantly review what you learned today, reframes what you've learned yesterday, and and it's an iterative process.
Hey,
right?
I would like to rechannel this discussion in the half hour that we have left, because we talked a lot about the Iran war and geopolitics, and there is at least as much concerning stuff going on in our own country as there is in Iran and around the world, and we got a lot.
I can hear you. Let's go.
We got a lot to be concerned about.
Profoundly so. Profoundly.
Yeah. And I wonder how all this is going. For me, the biggest concern is that the federal bench will not allow Mr. Trump to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And we started off this conversation with the idea that the judiciary was fucked, and Congress is fucked, and it's really up to the executive to try to run this republic at the moment.
And it's not just that they disagree within some error bar of the fact.
Mm-hmm.
They're flat out just lying there. The judiciary is flat out just breaking the law.
Yeah, they're just completely dishonest, and they're violating the Constitution, and there doesn't seem to be any way of adjudicating it. And the Chief Justice is not able to bring any kind of influence on at least the D.C. district, which is the biggest problem at the moment with Judge Boasberg and Beryl Howell and others.
Jim,
Herman Jackson.
I really do appreciate you pushing the conversation back here, because this is very important. So yeah, go ahead, keep going. I mean, I'm going to tell you, that's what I'm worried about. I from day 2 of the Iran war, I was already on to what war is coming next. Like the war on supply chains has already begun of every level. So the worry about things like fertilizer and helium and oil and gas and all of this stuff, they're going to make that manifest. Okay, we have, and we have gridlock on Capitol Hill, right? So now we've got all the leftover bits of the intelligence services and their proxies, and as Ian Berling gave with the Praetorian Guards running around, blowing shit up, and that scares me more than anything else.
We're left with a huge problem, which can be summed up in one sentence, really, is what can be done about any of this? And the answer seems to be that we're helpless. And that's a terrible situation to be in. We can't do anything about the Senate leadership and the fact that, Mr. Trump has a majority in the House and the Senate, and he's in the White House, and he can't get a single piece of legislation passed, or at least very little. He can't get any of his people confirmed for their jobs. The Department of Justice, for some mysterious reason, seems to be unable to prosecute anything. I think people are this. I think this is freaking people out. The helplessness that we're floundering around in, and I think that the only it's got to resolve in some kind of action. It wants to go in that direction. It can't stay frustrated and bound forever.
Yep.
And so that's why I'm thinking that we are going to find ourselves in a really serious civil conflict and a constitutional crisis before Christmas.
Turning.
I know. It's. I agree.
It started with the GFC, by the way, when they failed to get a single conviction.
Mm-hmm. Well, they
That
didn't even
really.
try, really.
Well, I read a book that went through the details of the ones they did try, and they just got thrown out as soon as they got the conviction. They just an appeals
Mhm.
court just boom, 3 hours out,
I
gone.
think that's a
So
that's
they gave
another
up. They
that's
gave up.
an that's another Tim Dillon quote. He's like not only was it the 2008 crisis, but it was the guy who ostensibly, it fooled me. I was 18, I voted for Obama, but that guy who, if there was ever going to get that, you can be as disillusioned as you want. If there was ever a guy that you thought at least was going to maybe do
Try,
something, and
try.
he goes when that guy, he kind of expect when he goes, we're shutting down Guantanamo. It's like, well, the military industrial complex, the rest of the world. Like, no, you're not. When he didn't even get like a token arrest, I think that exhausted a lot of people and induced that feeling of helplessness, which is what you're saying, Jim. But you also have to realize, like, they want you to be helpless. Doesn't mean that you don't feel
Sure.
that, but that is also, it's like that meme. It's like everything's helpless. There's nothing we can do, and it's like my brother in Christ. That is the point of a psyop. So I'm with you. The helplessness. I mean, I'm the youngest out of all you guys. Trust me. I get the feeling of like, where does this go other than bullets? And I have a microphone, so I'm gonna get shot in the face. But they also want you to be helpless. So if you have anything, it's kind of a contradiction. It's don't be helpless because that might be the only thing you can help, if that makes sense.
The other part of the story is whether or not our economy is going to be trashed before any of this is resolved, or if it will be, at the same time that we find ourselves in some kind of a terrible domestic conflict, that the
Mhm.
economy has also crashed.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it is a worry. And I don't know what else to tell you other than Trump, in many ways, is betting on the same thing that Jerome Powell bet on in 2022, is that the American economy is more resilient than all the other economies, and we could afford a higher cost. We could weather a higher cost of capital than everybody else could.
Yeah, well, especially if there is a lot of capital pouring into the United States, and
That
that has
was
been part of his strategy to insulate the country against a currency collapse.
and watching guys, following guys like Greg Fuller of Freight Waves talk about, what we're seeing. The ISM numbers are good. The trucking day rates are good. They're off the charts. There's a lot of good foundational economic data saying that things are not that bad, and that we can handle, for example, $3.50 or $4 a gallon gasoline. The rest of the world is not going to be dealing with
Yeah,
anywhere from
but then you have
15.
you
Right.
have you have this action going on at Blackstone and BlackRock
Mm,
and the private equity and the
yep.
gated redemptions, and
Yep.
that would seem to me to be potentially a very contagious
It
problem.
could be. It could be.
I just
A
saw a
lot.
stat that said 56% of the commercial real estate in Philadelphia is under stress.
Mhm.
56%.
Yeah,
Right? I
I know.
mean, there are too many instabilities, and I think the private credit bubble has burst. Period.
Hmm.
It's not that it's done bursting, but it has the needle has hit the bubble,
Hmm.
and I think that will then cause an explosion of private equity because private equity owns a ton of that. The banks have more exposure than people are willing to admit because the banks
Mm,
lend money to these
mm,
guys. And then
mm,
on top of that, you got a real estate bubble that you could argue a 30 or 40% correction of house prices is in order. And
Hmm.
the thing that drives me nuts, and I tweet about it recently, is today. Everyone agrees we kept rates too low for too long, too many times.
Hmm.
And
yeah.
now everyone's calling for lower rates. I go, no, you sound like a fucking retard. We know that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. Don't
Yeah.
do it.
But they're not willing to trade off higher rates
Well, that's like a person with
and the
stage 4
possibility
liver
of
cancer, you know?
really discovering the price of money and the possibility of a deflationary economy.
But I'm not sure willing is the word. It's like having stage 4 cancer, saying I'm not willing to die. I think
Mm.
there are things that will happen that at some point will be taken out of our control.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been thinking about this again. Been thinking about all these things a lot, and I'm not in disagreement that we have sincere fucking problems. Like, I'm not going to argue this. I think, the question is whether Iran is the cause of this.
No,
The
it's not
the
the
classic.
cause.
It's not. It's not. It's not. What it is you have, again, I keep looking at it from the exact opposite. We've already lost and we're trying to get it back, right? We've already lost the country under Obama and Biden. We're trying to get it back. And this is a danger. This is the part of the process we have to, if you want to get out of the learned helplessness environment or mindset, and again, it's about agency, it's about all these things. Let's go there. Let's think in those terms.
I just read for the second time The Lords of Finance. The book suffers from too many foreign names. One of those things where you go, I don't need all these names, although I know why they have to present them. But what my conclusion is, at the end of World War I, we had destroyed huge amounts of capital. We had destroyed huge amounts of the real kind of capital, not money capital. And that every country wanted to be made whole, and it was not possible. It's like in a bankruptcy where you say, look, there's not enough to go around. So you're going to all get 40%. Well, every country wanted to get 100%, and that led to tariffs. It led to reparations. It led to all sorts of problems where, the U.S. was being criticized, for example, for not forgiving loans. I go, and I'm sitting there thinking, it's your fucking war, you assholes. You did it, right? So why should the U.S. forgive a goddamn loan? Well, the answer is because the world was in a complete state of chaos, because it was worth way less than every country wanted it to be, and they didn't come to terms with it, and we ended up with World War II.
So the plan, the way you would offset a lot of this quote unquote deflation is by repricing the savings and the collateral.
And the collateral is mostly houses at this point. And
gold and everything else. Commercial and real estate. And right, and everything else. And I think that's part of it. I think that's the big that's going to be the needle you get thread. I don't know how you do it. I have some ideas. Obviously Trump has ideas on this and what to do and everything else. And we've all talked about this. Notice how Powell hasn't been cutting interest rates.
Right.
Notice how the bond markets, or especially the SOFR markets, are now handicapping no rate cuts through March of next year. Okay. So cost of capital is going to stay relatively high. The demand for money is high enough that people are willing to pay 3.7% for dollars today to deliver them in March of 2026. That's what people are paying today.
Yeah, it's funny that people think that's high.
Right. No, I know, but since we were at the zero bound for so long, right? You know what I mean? And so
recalibrated.
There's a lot of moving parts, and I don't want to try and present a Goldilocks scenario or anything. The Goldilocks, because my base case is that we're going to muddle through it as long as we can get the volatility premium of Iran off the board, and then we deal with the reorganizational premium of the way supply chains move. And if we can avoid the worst of the the Praetorian problem of blowing up the infrastructure and creating the self-fulfilling prophecy that the supply chains are all going to break down, then we have a chance to muddle through this without it not being, catastrophic.
See, I don't view any of these events as causal. I view these events as triggers. Causal is when you go into a crisis priced such that you cannot withstand the crisis. If everything was priced correctly, we would be much more durable going into any crisis.
Agreed.
So it's this gigantic bubble. It's this gigantic bubble in everything.
Well, the other thing I'm going to say here is the following: if you can get the actors who are attempting to create that collapsing scenario and work with the men who are trying to, and finally submit, and let the guys who are trying to fix it do their thing, then we can muddle through it. There is an actor pushing this agenda, because we as humans are really good at muddling through, bearing up, doing what needs to be done. We can do this. They want us to believe that we can't. And that's the fucking thing that pisses me off. That's why I do battle on Twitter every day, because the chuckling and collapsitarian model of the modern, what's left of the modern libertarians, who are all going to like retreat to their fucking book clubs and argue about fucking semicolons, as opposed to getting out there and actually fixing the goddamn world. Like, and they're, and you know, like all of it, dudes. I'm like, we can do this, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. We're all going to have to tighten our belts and do the thing and whatever. But if you want civilization to survive, you can. There are anti-civilizational forces out there. And in my estimation, Trump just took one of the major ones off the fucking board.
I think Mr. Trump is going to have to, in one way or another, regard the Democratic Party as a terrorist operation, whether he declares it openly or not.
Yes. Yes. And the leverage, but you see, the closer we get to actual crisis, the feckless assholes like Chuck Schumer, for example, who have power but don't have any desire to put their neck out for anything, they're going to be like sitting there. They're going to become very interesting people because they have the opportunity to break with the existing order and do what needs to be done.
It's going to be done by funerals. These guys are going to die, and new people are going to have to come in.
Yeah.
That's just like in science. They say, old paradigms end when they go to the grave, and the new people come in and correct it.
Agreed.
There also is an overt attempt. Everything looks like it's designed to get us to fight. Right. That's why I pay attention to how toxic Twitter has begotten. Why I watch you battling, and I'm going, everything's about my Twitter feed. I could go through 100 tweets, and I think I'd find 95 of them are darkness, just pure darkness.
Yes.
Now, there is clearly a generational hatred being stirred up by someone. The boomers. This boomers did it thing is not organic.
No, not at all. Dude, they call me a boomer at this point.
Well, yeah, you're kind of an honorary boomer.
I am not.
You're an
Jesus
old
fucking Christ.
You're an old fuck.
I'm 58. I'm high Gen X. Dude,
that's an honorary boomer.
I wouldn't call you a boomer, Tom.
The Zoomer Wappen, that's a problem. We have to
You're a boomette. I invented a great term that I thought was funnier than shit. Where I said, how would you like to be a boomer and Jewish? And then I looked up the definition of
Joomer.
And Joomer. I came up with Joomer, and I came up with a great definition, but I didn't write about it because
I'm Mamdani voter.
You've already pissed off the Jews this year. Lay off the Joomer joke. But I thought it was fantastic because when I looked up boomer in Google, the entire definition was pejorative. It was not a demographic statement. It was about their views. The whole thing was about their views. I'm going, what the fuck has happened? What the fuck? The definition of a boomer no longer has to do with demographics.
Right. I know.
And
what's happened is you have a whole bunch of aging former hippies out on the streets inveighing against the very things that they used to be in favor of, and vice versa. Supporting the CIA and the FBI.
It's so surreal. Isn't it?
I know. For my next trick, I'll make the flower children love the CIA.
Yeah,
and bomb countries. Countries.
It's like
what's also tremendously puzzling about the whole dynamic of the left right now is that you've got these vast cohorts of people like all the people in the news media, in journalism. Okay, all the editors and reporters of the New York Times and all the news producers at CNN, they can't all be sincere communists. They can't. It's not possible.
No, they're not.
I think they're paid liars.
It's not possible.
I think they're paid liars.
But do they not understand the terms of the battle? Do they not understand the issues that they're supporting?
They're paid millions of dollars to say what they're saying.
Well, some of them aren't. I mean, a lot of them are just, a lot of those New York Times reporters are just grunts.
Right.
Yeah, they're not getting paid millions of dollars. And yet, they seem to be doing everything they can to slant the news in favor of something that is a color revolution.
But you've seen the montages where they all say exactly the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, they're paid to say that. They're being handed a script.
Well, those are the talking heads on the news and their producers. I'm thinking more, along the lines of the New York Times reporters.
Or the Sunday
There
morning
are
crowd.
hundreds and hundreds of them, and they can't all be in the service of this dishonest program.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure, but I was a newspaper reporter myself, and once, for a while, and it seemed to me that vocation attracted a certain kind of personality that tended to not be necessarily the kinds of people who, went along with every program.
But I think those days are over.
Well,
Me too.
it could be.
I mean, I have to agree with it. I wish the world worked the way it used to work, Jim.
Did any of you go to the New Kings rallies on Saturday a week ago?
No
I did.
Kings?
I went to two of them.
And
As I said in one of my podcasts yesterday, the mental illness on display was absolutely florid and garish. Unbelievable.
I support the anti-war crowd. I'm militantly anti-war.
They weren't anti-war though. They were not.
I know.
They were
That's the
mostly
only thing
not concerned with the war.
I mean,
I know.
I've come down on the side of these are not moments of or interventions or whatever you want to call them of aggression. They are liberation, and sometimes you fight. My model, the way I look at the world now, is that these are all actions. Call them wars or call them what you want. These are all actions of liberation. Taking out El Mencho, that's an act of liberation of central Mexico. Venezuela, liberation of Venezuela. And you could make the argument for Iran. You don't have to agree with me. I'm okay if you don't. But I think at the very least you should consider it. And then, and then see what Trump does with the rest of it. Because if he doesn't do because the neocons fucking hate everything he's doing. Because what did they say on day one? Trump doesn't have a plan. He's not going to put the right people in charge and blah blah. Like, dude, you're telling me that he doesn't have a plan to go in and slaughter the entire American military, trying to subjugate a country the size of Europe or whatever the fuck it is. It's just fucking dumb. Like, of course, your neoconservative underoos are showing, for fuck's sake. Let's get over yourself. Like, no, he's like, I'm done being blackmailed by a bunch of assholes. You can call them Shia crazies, you can call them this, you can call them. How about just call them a nasty private equity fund that makes a lot of goddamn money?
Which describes every private equity fund.
Yeah, exactly. And I hate all those fucking people. I mean, I've been bitching about fucking Paul Singer destroying fucking Argentina over and over and over again. Like, how many times have these guys done this shit? And I'm like, how about the IRGC is just a bigger version of that?
How about the NGOs that are supporting all the No King stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
And trafficking and everything else under the sun.
Why is the Treasury Department? Why is the Treasury Department and the DOJ not capable of going in and dismantling those?
Well, they are. They're just doing it at the financial level, and because you can't get anything through the fucking courts, you can't get these people convicted because the judiciary is in complete fucking revolt against it. So you have to cut off the money flow first. You have to bankrupt all these people. Mm-hmm. That's what has to be done.
Somebody made the case that the reason they let the money flow into, say, by example, Minnesota, right, or the Somalis and all that shit, it's because some of that money stays in Minnesota and it's a net win for the state.
Well, and that's the argument.
Somali leering mafia.
That's the argument that the fraud is actually comprises most of the GDP.
Right.
I mean, we've heard that argument over the last couple of months.
Which shows you how bad the GDP is a metric.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Been saying it for years. It's just gross national spending. It's not gross national product.
Yeah.
Right.
And all that money flows into Minnesota and then it goes over to Somalia.
Well, it's bullshit when they say
this. Which funds the pirates, which then gives the money to the fucking Houthis to do. And then they run around and they blow up ships and they do all this crap. And then they flood the zone with a bunch of fucking shitty Iranian propaganda. Fuck off. I'm done with it. I mean, dude, if it was President Luongo, I'd have nuked the site for Morbid ages ago. But that's just me. Of course, that site would have been 10 Downing Street. But
decaf, Tom. Decaf.
I'm drinking
Fuck that. Give him some.
non.
Get him some Adderall. Keep going.
Ritalin, go for it.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No Ritalin.
That's as far as it goes. I'm done. I'm gonna bring it right back down. We're good. That's it.
The whole world's fucked up. This is the valley of death. I'm convinced that this is the fourth turning model's pretty good. I think
It's not bad.
So the model is not that bad things happen only in fourth turnings, but rather fourth turnings when society loses its shit. We have lost our shit by any stretch.
Are we going to need?
Yeah.
Are we going to need firearms?
Well, you should always.
I mean, you know,
I'm too old for
some of us.
fighting
Some
off
of us have been buying them and collecting them.
Well, I have a couple.
you should always. You should always.
Are we going to need them?
I bought a couple last week.
Really?
Yeah,
I keep one in arms.
I've got to get. I'm trying to figure out what firearm to get for my daughter. So I'm like buying various things for her to test out to figure out what she can handle. She wants a gun, so I'm like, okay, well, these are guns that if whatever one she doesn't pick, she picks, I'll have the other ones. I want all those anyway because they're fun. Like guns.
Do you need a license there in Tennessee or Florida or wherever?
It's just a background check for most of these places.
That's it. It's just
Even here in Maine. Maine's a liberal shithole, and it's still you'd go in and they just
oh no,
20 minutes.
The biggest problem is that I am we're here in Tennessee, but we're still residents of Florida because I still have my home in Florida. So my driver's license is in Florida. My state residency is in Florida. I will vote in Florida elections because I'm not a resident of Tennessee, and I spend enough time down in Florida to do all that. I'm still a Floridian, but for that reason, I can't buy any handguns because you can only have them delivered to an FFL in the state in which that is that where your driver's license is issued. So
you can't have handguns in Tennessee.
No, I can. I can't. I can only have them shipped to an FFL in the state where my driver's license is. So I'm going to go back in most of April. I'm going to spend with my daughter down in Florida, right? It's her birthday and all that stuff. And I'm going to go down there. I'm going to spend a couple of weeks down there and, and I'll do that, 2 or 3 weeks here and there for the rest of the year. And, until we decide what we're going to do with the house. And so when I go down there, I'll collect the guns I just bought because I can't pick them up until I do that. So that's what's going on there. So it's just the rules are
the shame would be to be taken out by one guy. The idea of trying to set up an armed fortress where you can hold off a band of crazies, I'm too old.
Oh, I mean, yeah. At the end of the day,
you'd hate to get taken out by one crazy. That would be the shame.
The Trantifa guy at the end of my lane, I know how I'm going to deal with him. He's my problem. But anything beyond that.
So when I got canceled in 2020, I slept with a couple loaded guns.
I'm with Dave. I've got a shotgun and AR. I got a pistol in the car. Mine is I'm not gonna be taken out by one guy. When I look at Delta Force or the Green Beret guys I know who are up in the mountains and have multiple tiers of, I'm like, you could take on an army. I know I'm not. I'm gonna go down with the fight, but I know what I am. I got a microphone.
The related story is just keeping supplies of food. You don't want to set up 10 years of MREs, but you also don't want to run out of food in 2 weeks.
We literally just got the pole barn wired and I got electricity everywhere now. So now the chest freezer gets delivered tomorrow we start filling that with meat. So
you literally just need calories. It would be a shame to starve to death in 6 weeks and have the cavalry show up with food in 8.
Right. It's we've been my wife and I have thought about this for years, and all the years that we were quote unquote preppers. We're not. We used to grow garden and can vegetables and all this stuff. And after a while, the wife was like, that's useless. That's just there's no calories there. So how about canning jars of ghee and putting in tubs of coconut oil and then canned meat and that's what we've been doing. That's what we've always done. We've always told people store calories. So if you're going to can anything, can potatoes, right?
Or just a couple 100 pounds of rice for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's inexcusable not to have, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, and fat and protein are very important and all of that, so that you don't, because at the end of the day, so just be smart about it. Don't can of tomatoes is nice, but who cares? Like they've got 4 calories in them. Like they don't get you
Exactly.
anywhere. Yay. How about this can of like pork chunks has more nutritive value than everything else than your entire garden does.
A can of Crisco.
Right. So down in Florida, we planted ground nuts that we didn't have to harvest. That if we needed to, we always had them available. You keep potatoes on the ground. You do all that shit. Because why did the Irish have potatoes? Because while the wars were going on, you could be shooting each other on the ground, but the food's in the ground, right?
You could reach down and grab lunch,
right? You can pull out, go in there where they dig them up and eat.
Well, they also say you starve in the spring because your winter stores run out.
Right.
And so I keep having this thought that I wish when I was 25 years old, I'd bought some useless acres for pennies on the dollar and planted walnut saplings.
Walnut saplings, chestnut trees, all that stuff. Yeah.
The problem I have with that model, and I therefore don't regret it, is that some hunters would have discovered these big walnut trees, gone in with chainsaws and taken them out.
Yeah, this is why you have property that has, when you see like down in Florida, we've got these horrible things called water oaks, which are basically, they look like live oaks, but they die after 25 years and then they drop their limbs on your house and, they're only good for firewood. They don't have a whole lot of acorns, but if you got white oaks and red oaks and everything else, there's acorns on the ground. Like, ask me how I know. I used to feed my goats with that way because they would just go through and clean up all the acorns in the fall. So we had, acorn finished goat multiple times, for multiple years. Same thing. There's food out there, and and there's plenty of videos on YouTube about what to plant to get yourself some calories, and like low maintenance plants that just show up every year. They're like fucking weeds, and they produce.
I'm too old. I have 30 tablets of Valium. I'm going to the light. I just don't want to.
I'm not there yet.
I just don't want to suffer.
I'm older than you, Dave, and I'm planning up.
That won't do it. No, benzos are actually remarkably safe, even in massive doses. You'll wake up a couple days later. You mix them with alcohol, then you're dead.
You're selling it now.
So,
you got to wash it down with vodka.
If you wash it down with alcohol, then you're good.
Well, actually, what you do is you then tie a plastic bag around your neck and pass out and suffocate is what I'm told.
Well, there's that. Like, I know you don't drink, Dave. So the day we show up to one of these and Dave's drunk off his ass, we know.
Get the Narcan out. Get the Narcan out.
Yeah.
Did you ever drink?
Well, I partied. I started young. I was getting shit faced in 6th grade, and then I was too. Bar
mitzvahs.
By the end, no, mine was just being a rogue. I would say by the end of college, I was kind of done, and I off and on got shit faced. But I decided that I liked the taste of Coke better, Coke the drink, and that hangovers suck.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of said, look, I don't need this shit anymore, and so I probably have 1 beer a year.
Yeah, I mean, I have people gift me bottles of alcohol anymore. I get to Calgary, I got cigars and all of this stuff, and that's mostly so people just and that's more. And I have like a drink every once in a while. I had more alcohol this weekend than I've had in like 6 months. Every once in a while, I'll have a drink. And because a good rye whiskey with a cigar is a good evening. But again, not often. Once a month.
I miss alcohol so much. I had a concussion in 2022, and I can't drink. If I have even like 3 beers, when it wears off, I'll have like a hospital visit panic attack, like near seizure.
Wow.
I don't know what the fuck. I'm Irish. I can drink like a motherfucker.
Right. You have superlative liver cells.
Yes. I cracked my head in 2022, and I just can't do it.
Doing what? What were you doing?
Well, I was shit-faced, and I was actually with one of the Delta Force guys.
There's a message there. There's a message there.
Yeah, I was. I was with him and a Marine, and my buddy, and I fell and I hit my head on a brick, and I cut it open. I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna die." And my Marine friend's like, "You're probably not gonna die." And I was like, Dale was there. Dale was in Delta Force. I'm like, I'll go wake up Dale. Dale knows what to do. And he's like, if you wake up Dale, we're all fucking dead. And I was like, that's a good point. So I just had to stop drinking. I was gonna say, unrelated to everything, we could kind of wrap it up with this. Is Jim, what you're saying about need a firearm or have enough to defend yourself against one guy. and I'm not even sponsored by them. I wish I was. You can order incendiary ammo online and have it shipped to your house. So I have
Is
a
it
shot.
worth getting a burner?
I don't
What's a
know. I have
burner?
I have
What's
a
a burner?
shotgun full of
It's one of
thermite
those
ammo.
pepper ball guns.
No, get a fucking shotgun, dude. Get $100
Oh, I've got a
shotgun.
shotgun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get
But I
some
mean, just for
incendiary.
the problem in New York State, yeah, I have the New York State concealed carry license,
Mhm.
but Kathy Hochul, the governor, got some kind of cockamamie law passed that said basically you can't carry a firearm in just about any kind of geographical space that you can name,
Well, by the time
except,
you need
except
it,
your
Right.
home.
by the
Well,
time
the
you
other
need it,
thing
that
is
law won't
that
be
depending on the
applicable.
courts, you have to, in some places, prove that you are going to die if you kill someone.
No, this is
You want to be in a state that has a castle doctrine view of life.
I think we're
or
talking about by the point of collapse that there's going to be no law to enforce.
if we're in that
Well, that's
situation,
true.
at that point, the people in your community are your most valuable resource. Period. And that's the thing. You have to
I'm
have a
the
good.
youngest
You have to
guy
have
in my neighborhood. I'm the youngest guy in my
Oh,
neighborhood.
Jesus.
Jeez.
Dave. You're a little vulnerable.
All right, you're a loose
Just gonna
drop.
say.
Making a note.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
my neighborhood are the people who are there instead of being in a retirement home.
yeah. Well, I will say is I feel like, and I have no experience in the military, but I feel like I did ask one of the Green Berets. I was like, I basically said to him what Dave's been saying, like, I'm not going to survive, but I'm like, I don't want to get taken out by one guy. I was like, if I use a shotgun with incendiary ammo and that lights someone on fire, will that send a message? And he was like, absolutely. So that's my takeaway is I'll light at least one person on fire. Yeah. So I don't know what that says about my outlook on the country, but my takeaway is I'll set one person on fire.
So,
I,
what is this
I,
ammo? Are these like tracer bullets?
No. It's incendiary ammo. It's actually it's a mixture of thermite and something else. Yeah,
Thermite. Oh,
Thermite.
we're
shit.
5,000
There's the
degrees
thermite
Fahrenheit.
story again.
How
Yeah,
can that
five.
even survive leaving the barrel of a gun without blowing up your gun?
Well, I've shot it. It almost does. It comes out. That's why it's called dragon breath.
Your gun must get hot after a few.
Bro, it looks like it looks like you're shooting a rocket launcher. I've like,
Oh,
yeah,
gotta get some of that. Gotta
yeah,
get some of that.
yeah. It's called
I want a
Emax.
flamethrower too. I want a
EMAC.
flamethrower.
It's based in Georgia. It's like Emax. Like you might.
That's
All
some
right.
wild shit.
Yeah.
it's really funny. My wife being a potter, and she made her own raku kiln, right, for doing Japanese raku firings. So, and her her energy source for that is a weed torch, which is a gas powered weed torch, and then just she uses it.
Oh,
Oh yeah, she's like it's so she has a flamethrower. It's not doesn't throw flames far, but she has one. And that's
Yeah.
what she uses. And I'm like, she's like, I love this thing.
I thought you said raccoon kilt.
my wife
No.
has been nagging me to get more guns. It's
Really?
serious.
You just get at
Yeah.
least one.
That's unusual.
No, I got a couple, but yeah, it is unusual. She's getting creeped out.
Well, then get
Well,
ammo.
What is she
the-
fantasizing about?
I think she wants to kill me.
Oh, well, she can use one of your guns, right?
Yeah, I know. I know.
What I would say is, since we're all older, I have like joint issues and everything else. What I'm looking for is as little recoil as possible. That you can go out and fly. And as I get older, the last thing I want to do is fire anything heavy. Right, I'm not interested in firing 308 and 30-06 and all this shit. That stuff's hard. It beats your body up.
Beats the
Like
shit out of you.
I ain't friggin' RFK Jr. doing 100 push-ups a day. Both of my shoulders are fucked. So for me, I'm like very, very carefully going through all this, going, what can I shoot comfortably a lot, so I'm trained, ready to go. So I've been thinking about that a lot.
Vodka shots. Boom. Shoot that.
Yeah. No, I don't like vodka.
What's your go-to handgun?
Oh, me? CZ75.
Hmm.
It's a CZ75 and 9mm. Well, actually, it's my 85 combat. My podcast gun. I've showed it off before. So, but that's me.
How about
everybody's a little
rifle?
different. My rifle of choice right now is going to be something barreled in 7.62 by 39, the Russian round. So I have, I got a bolt gun. I've got a semi-auto. I just bought an AR-10 variant in barreled in 7.62 by 39.
Why is that Russian round superior to a NATO round?
Larger.
I just like 7.62 by 39.
More stopping power.
More stopping power for it functions as both a good deer rifle and everything else. So if you
I
have to
haven't
shoot
shot
deer,
guns since I was in high school.
ooh, yeah,
So I have
that's.
to get a little practice in or
Hey,
something.
don't just make sure.
Yeah.
I would recommend you start with something
Some
in
safety course or something.
well, that's one, two, and the one I'm looking at is 5.7, the FN round, 5.7 by 28, because there's good guns that are cheap, and the ammo has gotten cheap now because it's the rounds getting more popular. Got low recoil, high speed, good round. I'm gonna test that out, and then for people who are recoil sensitive, it's either that again subsonic 9mm, or I would say 22 Magnum. And there's some good rounds, and there's some good ammo out there in 22 Magnum, depending on how much of a barrel you want. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at. I'll be honest with you, for my daughter, because I know she's got sensory issues and loud, and it's going to come down to all of that stuff. So for people who are older, recoil sensitive, I've come down to those things that a high power rifle round. I'm not really interested in anything heavier than 7.62 by 39. I've got something. Everybody's got something at 308, and everybody should have 223 because your enemies shoot 223. And if you have to shoot somebody, or you have to do the thing, and you're gonna be like, so you shoot the guy, take his gun, take his everybody's got 223. So everybody should have at least something, and they're easy to shoot.
You're way above the level I intend to get to.
Dave, it's called Gold Goats and Guns for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I could get I thought the goats part was the key part. Okay.
It was, but not for me right now. I'm done. If somebody, I'll be happy to train people in my neighborhood how to raise goats, but I don't want to raise them.
One of my
anymore.
son's best friends in high school turns out to be a gun buff and actually sells guns and stuff. So I have an unscheduled appointment with this young man to and I'm also counting on my Boston Terriers to take him out.
Get some incendiary ammo.
Have you got them trained up, Dave?
I had to give one of them away, believe it or not.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
They're sweet. They're sweet. But these two couldn't get along, and they were shredding each other, as in $450 vet bill last week, shredding each other. Ooh. Right? Yeah. I mean, really doing damage. And the young one was the provocateur, but the older one also has tenure. So the young one turns out to have been, I drove to New Hampshire and delivered him to my three grandchildren, son, wife, and two dogs. He's got a great life. He lives in the middle of a Courier Knives photo, Dublin, New Hampshire, and the dog's in seventh heaven, and there's no fights in our house now.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, I love my dog. Camille is phenomenal, but she doesn't like guns. But the minute I go out, I pull out the 22 and just go out and clink and get rid of some of my my frustration, or get a little freedom on. She's like back there, cowering in the corner. She's very sensitive. But I would, if you really care about it, you get a gun dog. Like, you get dogs that were trained to.
No, I don't need a.
You know what I mean? Like,
I just need to be able to fire off a couple of rounds on one guy, and if I don't get him, I don't get him.
Right.
That's where I am. I'm like,
that's where everybody is, right? Yeah, because that's where, and at the end of the day, that's kind of what you have to,
So I went through the whole prepper thing for Y2K, got duped. Actually got duped by Wall Street. That was a Wall Street grift.
Absolutely, it was.
And but then when COVID showed up, I go, holy fuck! I've mentally prepped for this. So I was at the store before. I don't know if I've told you this story, but there were four of us locked down. I'd planned on two. And so I said, okay, can each of you live with a roll of toilet paper a week? And I said, yeah, I could do that. And I go, okay. So my wife says, I thought you prepared. I said, for two, not four. I go to the barn. I come back and I said, okay, based on that rate of consumption, we have enough toilet paper to last us only 2.5 years.
After that, it's corn cobs.
It is the currency of the realm.
Yes,
you will be able to buy some guy's daughter with toilet paper if we get into a tight spot.
No, they're just shooting.
Canned sardines. I mean, canned sardines packed in olive oil. Like, I
don't like sardines. I'd rather blow my brain out with that one gun.
Then, if you're obviously not ever been hungry enough.
Well, I get that part too. Yeah, it is a motivating force. I get it, but I also buy canned food that I can feed to the dogs.
Yeah.
And also, I don't have a problem with donating to soup kitchens and stuff like that.
Of course.
Then replenishing it.
We've done the same thing.
Well,
Yeah.
we've reached sardines and suicide, so I said we wrap this up.
And buying daughters with rolls of
yeah,
toilet paper.
we've
let's not
peaked.
go there.
We've hit our peak or our bottom,
Hit our
depends
peak.
how you look at it.
I'm going for a hike.
Yeah,
All right, Jim.
gentlemen,
It was good
as
to see.
always,
It was good. It was good to see you guys. Really
Yeah,
was.
great to
always.
see you guys.
And we didn't get in
enjoyed
a
this
fight
one.
over Israel, which was pretty good.
Oh yeah, well,
Well, we could have. We could have.
the Jews.
Yeah,
I'm
we-
easy.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just getting thornier. It is.
It is.
Twitter shows how hot that subject's getting now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well,
So-
we have Jim as our translator, or our I don't know,
He juice planes it for us.
Yeah.
Joomer. All right, gentlemen. As always, guys, listening, go into the description, links to everything: Twitter, Substack, Patreon, blah 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 blah. Guys, as always, a pleasure. Thank you for your time, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.